Welcome to the podcast where we talk about creativity and many other amazing things. So I'm joined today with Nicki, and Nicki is known in Minnesota and has recently moved to Arizona. And yeah, so today we're going to talk about like collaboration, creativity, and really what inspires us. So Nicki, what do you think are some of like your core values that you live by in this day and age?
I think I just try to maybe live less traditional, which is just something that feels innate in me, a little bit maybe on my own trail and staying true to that, which hasn't always been easy. There's been, whenever you go off on a new path, you're sometimes questioned. And until you start doing it, then they want to know how sometimes. But yeah, so I think my value is staying true to my family and always being able to have put them first in anything that I do. And then also just making sure I'm true to myself with living unique and on my own path, which is all about creativity, which is why I think I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And do you think that's something that you inherently want to go against the norms, or that you just always try to see more potential or possibility outside of what other folks doing? Are you forging your own path in a way?
That's a good question. I'm not trying to on purpose defy everyone. I think
Mhm.
that it's the opposite. I've tried to, a lot of my life, be maybe normal or be a little bit like on the path and try to live more traditional. And it's just never felt right. And so I also just found that sometimes when you go off a little bit on your own, you find newer experiences and newer ways. And I'm really like drawn to newness, I think. And I'm excited. I get bored easy. Going off the main path is a little exciting for me as well. We know what we know when we live a really structured traditional life. We just know that. And then we know what the outcome of that is.
Yeah,
It's fun to be able to go off that.
right. Isn't it true that you learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and so many experiences and ways?
Yeah, through experiences and ways. I think being around people that do what I don't want to do people have taught me that. Seeing how people live. I was a health coach for a lot of years, and I talked to many thousands probably of people about stress. And started learning how they got themselves maybe married to a job in a big house and they could
Mm.
never quit their job because they have all these all the things. And they got kind of locked up into this lifestyle. And that's that I learned pretty quickly not to do. So here I am on a blow up mattress and couch in Phoenix in a studio with a goal of van life next because I don't want to be married to have to work to pay for a house. I like experiences and I want to be with my family and my dogs and friends.
Yeah. And what would you say inspires you the most on a day-to-day basis? What is one thing that really motivates you or keeps you feeling optimistic?
It, Geez, a lot's changed in the last year or two, but it used to be I just loved majestic things. So every day I woke up like trying to find, I guess I would chase this. I think I would chase this idea of majestic or like this
Mm.
like really cool thing or something. And so there's a lot of just variation. Like I lost both of my parents and some great, like a good friend, a few dogs in the last couple years. And I think that through that, I've just learned that, I don't know, somehow it switched. And now I'm just like I am not trying, I am just more content. Now what motivates me is just to pay rent.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to stay healthy and pay rent. I don't care as much about that and just live in the
Hmm.
smaller moments, I think, because I
Hmm.
like the smaller moments now. So I just want to keep that up. It's weird. It was a big shift for me. I don't know, but it's not all the little moments. I'm already inspired for the day. I don't need to add anything and try to do a lot more to be inspired.
Hmm.
I feel like I used to have to do that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
That's good to realize that shift and
Yeah.
that you have a lot of experience teaching yoga as well. And I remember hearing you talk about really learning from challenges, or you shared that kind of like motivation from a mentor that you had mentioned or something.
Yeah. The yoga philosophy as a whole talks about if you fall out of a physical shape in yoga, your body will learn faster than if you like held steady. But through not just yoga philosophy or my mentors, but also even through health coaching, we would say if someone's angry, peel back layers, or if something's hard, they're your biggest spiritual teacher. I think that's among all self-help or self-improvement ideas, is that just like hard things help you learn about yourself and your reaction. But yeah, my theme this week in yoga, and I know you've taken a handful of classes because we're sitting in Phoenix right now, and the theme this week has just been the hardest people, poses you avoid, the things you avoid are your biggest teachers. Biggest spiritual teachers, I would say. And especially with people, sometimes I see that some people I'm just like, I don't dislike anyone, but sometimes I'm just like, they're difficult, right? Or they might be hard, but then I'm like, I used to also use people to try to learn about myself and grow. And now I just tend to, I don't feel like I need any more teachers. Not that I'm not trying to learn, but I don't want to be around difficult people as a spiritual teacher, so I just more avoid it. If they happen to be thrown in my face, then I will definitely try to receive whatever lessons that's going to give me. But yeah, that's been a big theme for me.
It seems like you're moving to a lot of different, or you recently moved to Phoenix, and it seems like you're able to take on new opportunities. You're able to take on you're not afraid to take steps and stuff. Didn't you mention that, was it the Vedas, or what was the...
Oh yeah, the Ayurvedic medicine, the doshas.
Yeah, the doshas.
Yeah, I like to, so I'm a Vata, and that's a very airy sign, which just means we like to run around and do things usually and be creative. But how you said that I up and move and I move around a lot, that is something that I do without thinking too much about, because I think the quality that leads to that is positivity. I just usually think things are going to work out. I'm not scared because things just can work. We have control over things working out. I don't think the universe just happens to us necessarily. I don't think there's something else leading my life. I think that I can have a choice in that. And so I lead my life with positivity. And so most choices I make, I'm not afraid of. And so that being said, like I just went and got a puppy. I have a 4-month-old puppy, and it doesn't say that I don't ever feel doubtful or feel scared. Like I was driving the whole way to get him and I was like, ugh. I felt those little feelings. But usually I'm like, even if I'm scared, I do it anyway because I'm positive that I'll figure out a way. And I've thought a lot about that because I've met a lot of people who get stuck on things and they don't move into, for me, it's easy to take risks. And so that's not something, sometimes I'm grateful for that quality. And sometimes it's a pain in my ass and it gives me a lot of extra work. But generally, I'm really grateful for that quality. I don't know how I got it. I'm not scared over that. Making choices like that is courageous. You have to be like, this could go really bad. Some of these choices could go really bad. And then how can I respond to that? And usually you have to be pretty positive. You're going to be fine.
I think that determination almost determines by just saying that everything's going to be fine, you're determining that things are going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's doubt. There's always like tiny little shimmers of doubt, but there is something in me. And I don't know if I read a book a long time ago, but I do believe what you're saying. Like if you start saying things out loud or questioning too much out loud, that might not go your way anymore. So I definitely try not to even let my mind go there and just keep saying it. Believe it.
And if you are hearing some panting, that is a puppy.
Yeah, that's our we're sitting on a park bench at the dog park at, what time is it? Like 11 at night? I don't even know what time it is, Phoenix time.
Yeah, exactly. If you're hearing the rustling leaves behind us, there
really are rustling leaves. This oddly looks like a dead tree behind us.
Right. Yep. So
you guys, I wish y'all could see this Moose's loving Nick.
Moose the puppy.
And I got Ralphie, the almost 9-year-old, too. Bulldogs. Yeah, so that's what I do with my life. Teach yoga, see my son, and hang out with my 2 dogs. And when truly it used to be, I used to try to do so much and be so much. And yeah, it's so weird how that changed. And I didn't mean to change it. It just all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I should go. I need to go do something. I need to go. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go do crazy things anymore. But that was like a big part of my life for so long. I chased the majestic. I chased the cool things. And it felt good. But then now I love the simple.
There was a time and place for that in your life.
Yeah.
And then maybe you did that. You set out and did it. And we're all like living different chapters of our own life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we are.
Yeah. And do you think that experiencing those things, do you think that really helps forge like where you are now and like what you look forward to?
Some of the crazy stuff that I've done. I think it maybe taught me how much work it all is and how you don't have to go through all that to feel joy. And like it was cool, but
Mhm.
it's not any more cool than sitting on this bench watching my dogs do cute things.
Mhm.
Like some of the coolest things I've seen are some of the resorts I've taught at, maybe at different countries. They were cool and they were cool people and everything, but it's not any cool than just seeing my neighbor that gives me a new story too. Like I don't have to go that far to find really neat things. I think that's what it taught me is that
Mhm.
I feel, and I thought about that for a while too, because I was like, is there a different level of like that prideful, that good feeling when I see bigger, cooler things, like climbing the mountain yesterday versus just like seeing something super cute, like my puppy be super cute with his duck in his mouth. And to me, it wasn't. Like, I'm like, I could see a beautiful sunset, and that's equally as cute to me as beautiful or as majestic as seeing the dogs do something super cute. So while I love all the experiences really equally, I can get the same feelings, warm, fuzzy feelings either way.
Yeah,
So it just taught me not to chase it as much, I think.
exactly. I think that sometimes looking at it from an intrinsic value versus extrinsic, like from an internal value to external value, kind of weighing out those two different things and what you really, at the core root of it, of course, like we have that internal desire, but then there's like the external rewards. So just thinking that kind of balance of all those things that you've done in the past.
Yeah.
What are some of like your most savored moments, like with like your son? Or what are some of the fun, simple things that matter the most to you?
Oh, that's a good question. That's going to make me choke up a little bit. So my son just graduated high school, and he has been, as a lot of moms, I think a lot of kind of suburban traditional moms, that our kids are our life. But I was, of course, really involved in his life. And if you don't know, you might find out. If not, just trust me. It's exhausting and because putting someone else first. But I tell new parents that every time you go through a struggle with your child, or even if they're a baby, it's like you're building the bonds. And so now sitting here, when you ask me that, it's oddly not always the best moments that I cherish the most. It's all those moments that we fought. We didn't fight, but we fought through different things together. Like when my mom died and he was in the ER with me, or the dinners afterwards when he saw me maybe depressed, or maybe at the time during COVID when he got a 17% in a very advanced math class when I thought he was like doing really well. And all these moments that were so pivotal in our lives, but just helped us bond and grow together and get through hard times together. When you go through hard things together, just going back to that yoga philosophy this week, that's when the magic happens. And I know we say it, I know we hear that a lot. And I'm not saying go look for the hard things necessarily, but when they happen, at least consider that it might be doing something okay for you. Like it might not all be bad. I don't look for good in like when my like death or anything. There's no good. I don't believe there's anything good that could come out of that. Like I don't think but like the little things like a kid crying or getting a bad grade. It's like, these are just like no path is straight, perfect. So these are all just little parts of a journey, and there's never going to be all uphill. And so that there's no relationships without ups and downs.
Right, exactly. And it's just like any book or movie. You can't have a good, but yeah, it just wouldn't be a good movie or book without something that you work through or some kind of struggle that you come out stronger than you did before. And
Because
just,
how boring is just like all good.
yeah,
The contrast is important in yoga. I think a lot of spiritual books and things like that talk about there's kind of the contrast and how important it is. Many religions, many spiritual growth opportunities have these kind of yin and yang moments. And so
right.
it's nothing new. I'm not coming up with it on my own. It's just fact of life.
Yeah. Has there been any like recent experience in your life that really made you just feel grateful overall of just like where you're at right now?
I think I feel that way every time I see a palm tree. I
Yeah.
think every single time I lay down in my own bed alone, where I'm like in a studio that I'm doing it.
So we're discussing this concept of something simple versus something considered majestic. And I think that experiencing different things how that can vary, and you were just sharing something.
Yeah, I think first off, we're by the pool now in my apartment in Phoenix because the dogs were barking. And I sometimes bring them out by the pool and sit out here. But so we had to quick switch locations. And I was telling Nick is I don't know how much you guys care about listening to my life and my story. And I don't know how interesting it is or how much it's going to help anyone. But I do think the one takeaway, if I was going to give something to offer up in this, like I don't like to just talk to waste people's time. And so if there was something that I can offer would be that, kind of like what I said before, these big majestic things have the same feeling as some of the smaller things. And so if you're at home and you're feeling bored and, your dog do something cute, that warm and fuzzy feeling isn't that different than the big warm and fuzzy feeling that you might get from climbing a mountain and seeing. That's my really big experience from doing a lot of cool things. So if you're having FOMO or something like that, yeah, I would just offer up this idea of it. If you can strip down the ego layers of what it looks like to the other people thinking it looks cool and just care about what your heart actually feels in that happy moment and compare it, I think you would find that your heart is just as happy in the smaller moments as it is in the kind of big moments. And that's maybe something that only wisdom, like living through it all, and can teach you. So I guess if there was one thing I told Nick when we broke, I'm like, I don't know how much they care about, or you all care about my life, really, and like my personal experiences with my dogs and my son and stuff. But if there is something that my experiences can leave you with is, yeah, it's going to be the same. The little things are just the same as the big. And I'd be curious if anyone has experience in any other ways, but that's at least how it's been for me, which is why I don't chase the big things anymore, really, because it's like, it just creates more stress.
Yeah.
And it's the same feeling. So there's the same reward, but higher risk. It's just not worth it for me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that some people build up this big image or this grand illusions of grandeur that don't actually meet what they imagine it would feel like once it actually happens.
And I think that's a great point, that a lot of times nowadays people have this majestic view of what things are, or they maybe appear like they're living majestic, but they still don't get the feeling of that was cool, right? That feels amazing. This is a really cool thing, or this feels really good to my soul. And it's hard to teach. It's really hard. It's hard to offer that up because I think that people have to go through their own experiences and learn from gain their own wisdom on it. But I always like to give people shortcuts if I can. Yeah. Take that.
I believe it was yesterday, but this is a switch to a different topic a little bit. But I've always found it interesting hearing about athletes and their experience, psychology, how to be a successful athlete in different situations and scenarios, or like high pressure scenarios and stuff. And I've loved reading like books about like baseball players. Do you think that in this day and age, what would be one of the, like, a general like tips of advice for someone in a high pressure situation in a big game?
Yeah. First off, I should let people know that I do love to specialize with athletes. So that's primarily if I have a regular yoga teaching job, but if I ever got offered a job where I'm primarily teaching athletes, or if a team asks me to come, I usually trump that with my safer teaching job, just because I love athletes and I love seeing that in them. I think that, one bit of it, there's a lot of aspects of yoga that help athletes. So that's tough for me. But yeah, I don't know if I can identify just one tip, because I would think I use intention setting, like what a whole yoga class would offer, a 1 hour yoga class would offer, geared towards an athlete, from intention setting to the mobility and prehab to reduce the risk of disease, to the breath to calm the mind, to the maybe visualization, to seeing yourself, to overcoming challenges using your breath, and then actually strengthening the body too. So I think that I don't think I can pick one, because the yoga as a whole is all of the elements are important. Otherwise, it wouldn't be yoga. It would be fitness, or it would be what do a lot of people call it nowadays? Mobility, because they're not yoga teachers. They just call it mobility or something like that. I know shade on that, but that's going to do prehab, and that's going to help them with balance and probably stretching and things like that. But it's not going to give the mental piece and the breath piece and the visual. Maybe it does, the visualization. But I think that you could hire a different person for all of those aspects, or you could just do yoga. Like you could just do yoga and really make sure you have a teacher that knows all the parts of yoga and personal growth for an athlete.
Yeah, that seems like an attainable step to do.
Yeah, just do yoga. Just do yoga for an hour and make sure you have a teacher that knows how to incorporate intention setting. And of course, the mobility hopefully comes with that breath work, visualization, how to overcome hard times using your breath, how to delete something negative that you did and replace it with a positive thought again. So just make sure if you you do yoga as an athlete that you find someone that can incorporate all the benefits for specifically an athlete. Because there are a lot of stretching classes or fitness type yoga classes that they might not teach you how to use it for your sport.
And so I myself am a softball player.
Yes.
And I think sometimes the psychology of being in like a big moment and like maybe when I'm on like defense, sometimes thinking, oh, please don't hit the ball to me. Please don't hit it to me. But then I feel like recently I've found that if I think, oh, please hit the ball to me, I feel like I can make a good play on this, then it totally changes it feels like I feel so much more empowered to make the good play. And then when I visualize that, it ends up being I do a great job.
Yeah, and that's real tricky to do. I think that's part of the practice. But it takes you from reactive to preventative. So when you're asking for it, you're really ready. When you're like, I hope I don't, you're coming as an underdog kind of. It's showing less confidence. And when I played basketball, like you hear of the best athletes, they want the ball. They're not scared. They're like, give me the ball. And I truly just think that's a confidence thing because I wasn't either. I was nervous. At the end of the game, I'm like, I know I need to have the ball. I know that's my role in that when I played basketball, especially mainly my senior year. But that I had doubt in that. And so I do think that's a confidence thing. And I do think parts of yoga and a lot of other parts of life that can help you witness your own strength will help build that. Not just you, but anyone, and continue to make good plays like you're saying you're doing now. Yeah, you make the play. And the more you do that, the more you prove to yourself that you can do that.
Yeah. And I think a big thing too, I remember baseball player Derek Jeter said, you can't play like you're afraid of making mistakes. Like mistakes will happen, but if you just give it your all and just play hard, I think like that effort will shine through despite any like potential mistakes that might come up.
Yeah, I think effort shines through, but I also think preparation, just making sure you're locked in and focused and that you know what you're doing and you know what your intentions are before and you know what your role is. Like, I think that there are teams that show up that are effortful players. They're really physically good, but their minds aren't locked in and they don't have a unified goal maybe. And I think that they don't win championships. I think that they could get lucky and do pretty well. But I don't think they're elite necessarily. You know what I mean? So elite takes it a step further to unify energies of teams. It has a collective. I taught a really beautiful class tonight, and I actually really wanted to hear the collective energy of breath. So sometimes we'll be slightly off in our breaths, but I said specifically, let's hear the collective energy of all of you together, and let's see what we can do with breath. Now, I do think that would be amazing to have in a team, hear the whole team breathe together. And I think that if you did that like in a simple Sun A, and if you don't know Sun A, it's the very beginning of yoga, like the warm up, where you incorporate the flow of breath. And I do think that if you could start getting everyone breathing together and get that collective energy going, I think teams would be more unified. And then if you can add a little visualization with the goal of the game for baseball, what would be a goal? Holding a team under a certain amount of runs or?
Yeah, making all the plays that you can make on defense and like a game or one inning or
like not having any misses or something, so being locked in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I really think that I do think a collective energetic breath for teams would be a game changer for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and
not just one but many. Get the whole team breathing together and moving together.
Have you heard the study that was shown that the teams that high-fived each other more often, they scored more points, they won more games?
Is that baseball or what?
I think that was basketball. Like they would just high five each other whenever they were like switching spots on the bench or something or coming in and out.
I haven't heard that study, but I guess it doesn't surprise me. And I really think that if you use this idea of energies, which yoga so much is, right? Not just yoga, we just utilize energies that are already existent. We're all just a lot of energy. And the more we can get a collective energy together, the more good things happen. So like the more, that's why, gosh, I hate to bring in like maybe saying, or like people who sing Christmas carols or some things that really move you. Maybe people going to church and praying or people in a yoga studio. It might not be all these individual efforts, but like this collective energy for something, whether it's a team or the high fives, right? It's pulling together a collective energy. And I think it can create magic, and I think it can really do big things. We know it can. I know it can.
Yeah.
And I can see how starting to move hands and hitting high fives and stuff would start to do stuff like that. I really believe that.
Yeah. I find this stuff so fascinating, just that collective shared energy. And I just love hearing that, because I love hearing how a team is so successful and all the components that makes a successful team or unit altogether.
Yeah, like you could even take a pitcher and a catcher and do unifying breath. Two people that have to work really closely, maybe a point guard and a post. If you don't have a whole team, you might take two players that have to work really closely together and unify their efforts and unify their energy. Because you hear this sometimes about teams just being in sync. God, they had something, man, they had something magical. That's a collective energy. And if you don't know what collective energy is, it's just something magical is working. Something is just going right for them. It's like effortless and it's just working. And we can have a little control of that. That's not magic. We can control that a little bit, which is really cool.
Absolutely. I think sometimes the struggle is creating that and having people get on board with that and having that in place.
Yeah, but we're seeing, I've dealt with some pretty old school coaches that are pretty resistant to yoga, just a lot of that kind of stuff. But thank goodness there's been a lot of professional athletes, even the Vikings that do it. There have been, I can't remember the football player that does grounding, but he was recently found. Who was that? I'll have to think about that. The football player that actually took his shoes off and stood barefoot by the
goalposts?
Yeah, do you remember that? Who was that?
Was he meditating?
He was meditating, but grounding himself. So like touching his feet to the ground to feel more centered and grounded and connected. So I do think that some of these elite athletes people are starting to watch them and be like, there is something there, right? And yeah, I think that the more they do that, the more the elite teams will. I honestly think that elite teams have been doing it for a long time. I don't think I know. There have been a handful of Super Bowl teams that they've been doing it for a long time. They might not talk about it all the time, or it might not be publicized, but I do think that a lot of these things are being done for the very, very successful people in teams.
Yeah, because I think, isn't there like sports psychologists now more often, major teams?
Yeah, and that's been going on for a while too, but there's a lot of yoga and there's even breathwork coaches. A lot of athletes go to Pilates and yoga. Pilates is also breathwork and mobility. And I honestly don't know many very elite people like Olympians and like Kobe Bryant. Like I'm talking high level people that don't do it. Like the high level people are all doing some sort of collective energy, breathwork, yoga, visualization. There are not elite people that don't do this stuff.
Yeah.
It just is, if you go to the highest levels, they're not just throwing it out there and trying to be good. They're not just showing up and practicing hard. They're doing all the things.
Yeah. Like outside the field, outside the court. And yeah, and I think it's fascinating. I've heard of players like Shohei Ohtani, who's a major guy in baseball, and LeBron James, who's huge in basketball. I've heard that they get upwards of 10 hours of sleep per night.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's just like major restoring of the body, like really resting mentally, physically, and maybe taking naps before the game too.
That's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know a lot about sleep, but I just know I've studied like a homeostatic balance, and I've studied just the natural body's way of healing. And I don't know about excessive amounts of sleep necessarily, like sleeping a lot or even napping before games. I don't know the studies on that, and I haven't read it. But like normal sleep, I can see, because that's how the body all heals. It. The magic happens in the healing when we're sleeping, mentally and physically. I talked tonight a little bit about, too, in my yoga classes, just the innate the body's like ancient wisdom to heal itself mentally and physically. And that when you meditate, you're allowing for that, right? So it's just the body knows what to do. We're just really clouded from a lot of that these days. We've got our phones. It's not even these days. It's like always been a challenge. But if you can allow just a little bit, and I just did it. I'm not afraid to say it. I have a therapist, and I actually did a very amazing practice with my therapist on it for myself. I took about 40 minutes, and she just pretty much watched me stare off. And it just allowed my nervous system to work through some stuff naturally. And it's really, since that day, it was like a week ago. And man, it shifted something. It just that natural healing, going into that with the intention. We just have to, as athletes or people that want to be elite anything, use all the tools we've got. And it's a big miss if we're not using the mind-body connection and we're not aware of it or we don't know it. We're just walking through the world with the physical. If we're not using any of the mental, soul, and body connection, yoga is mind, body, and soul. We're trying to connect it all and unite all the layers of it. Yoga is yoke, which means union of all that. And okay, athletes will just be physical and try hard. And then you've got the energetic athletes, and then you've got the like calm focus, and you've got all these layers. But the elite aren't. They're using it all.
Yeah.
The mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And even as a teacher, I've heard really great yoga teachers say, I'm teaching from the source. They'll be like, I feel like I'm being guided from the source. And I'm a pretty scientific person, and so I don't know about that necessarily, but I think if you just like utilize again that collective energy and all the mind, body, and spirit pieces to even be the best at whatever you are trying to do, whether it's the yoga and instructing.
Right.
But I do think that we got a little sidetracked. I do think that if you need to use all the resources you have, which is mind, body, and spirit. And if you don't, you're just like missing out. And I really believe that you have to be very lucky to be very successful. I just don't think people are going to be elite without it. That's how much I believe in. I really believe in it. I wouldn't make my whole career out of trying to teach yoga to athletes and weave in all of that stuff if I didn't believe it would make them elite. It wouldn't. I have a whole vision board of just watching athletes succeed. Yeah. It's all I think earlier you asked me what like helps me succeed or what wakes me up is like watching people succeed at something. So like the tears after kicking a field goal and winning, or making a basket or holding the trophy. Those celebrative moments, I am not even in it, and I love that. Like I look at it and I'm like, oh my God,
me too.
It's the best.
Absolutely. And I love seeing their teammates' reactions after a big play or like immediately after it happens. That's just like a timeless moment, that like the pure joy of that and the support of teammates. And just I love seeing
because
people,
they went through the trenches with them, right? Like most teammates are bonded, again, that collective energy, because they went through, or like way back in the beginning of this podcast, because they went through hard times together. They went the 5 a.m. workouts or the road trips. They did the hard times together. And so when one person succeeds, they all feel like they succeed, or they know that they had a hard time and they know their struggles. And so that's like a part of joy for everybody on the team. It's pretty cool stuff when sports aren't just sports, right? Like they bring people together on a deeper connective level.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And then when you win championships or you break records together, and I don't know many other levels of a human high that people can get, really.
Yeah. And nothing is so satisfying as having a group achieve that goal, and in individual sports too, like golf or tennis or something like. But even that, they're not truly working alone. They've got so many people are in their corner.
Yep.
Working together. So yeah.
You could take it to companies too, and just say like a team at a company trying to sell a product, or like it's not just sport teams, right? Like people work as teams all the time. Families work as teams. Companies work as teams for like a collective goal. And so anytime you're working as a team for something and you all have that, again, it's not just a blind idea of we're individually working hard, but you all collectively have a goal and your energies are all collectively working in sync for that goal. But that's an intentional thing. You're not just showing up to practice and maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. When you can sync all that together, that's when eliteness happens. That's when championships happen. but I'd be curious. Show me a champion that doesn't have it. And if you're listening and I want to know, I'm not talking like high school level. I'm not even necessarily talking about college level championships. I'm talking like elite of your field, of your sport. The elite athletes are not, they're doing more. They're doing mind, body, and spirit stuff. And if they're not, we want to hear about it. If you are one, we want to hear about it. We want to hear what else you did to be elite.
Yes, absolutely. So you can send us those letters in the mail, please.
Email, please. Or text. Don't
Yeah.
call.
Send me a fax. But yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about that because that's definitely one of my passions is like kind of sports psychology and kind of that mind-body approach to being a successful athlete in all facets. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap up this episode here, but yeah, it is kind of getting late here and
it's later in Central Time, but
yeah,
you're still on that time, I think. But yeah, thanks for having me, and go elite athletes.
yeah,
Go change the world.
be elite even if you're not an athlete. Just be the best team, be the best family member that you can be out there.
Yeah, sync the energies together and
Yeah.
be the best team ever. Okay, signing off.
All right.
Phoenix.
All right. Bye-bye.